meteorologists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken them by surprise.
That sudden drop in temperature as half an hour ago, Mexican officials closed the border in the light of so many U.S. refugees.
Be prepared to go live to Los Angeles.
Are you getting this on camera?
What you see is happening now.
Look over there behind me! That's a tornado! Yes, a twister! This is just massive.
Storms rolled through with force. Watch as this U.S. Senate office building camera captures lightning striking near the U.S. Capitol.
Fears about flooding for the morning commute here in the Northeast. Heavy rain in the New York City area forced road closures. Some areas have received more than 5 inches of rain in the last couple of days. That was enough standing water for that guy. This is at a park in New Jersey to use a paddleboard.
There's Hurricane Andres and also Tropical Storm Blanca, and we'll begin with Andres. Now a Category 3 hurricane. It's way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean there, or at least the eastern part of the ocean. Very well-defined storm showing up really nicely on the satellite. You can see that well-defined eye there, but it is going to be weakening.
Brief but heavy downpours have hit the city. There has been some flooding and a water main break flooded a major highway through the downtown area. The National Weather Service has a hazardous weather outlook for the area in effect right now. So let me bring in CNN meteorologist Tom Slater. So how heavy is the rain? And what's the outlook?
Well, it's going to get a little bit better. But everyone in Atlanta wondering, oh, no, is this the flooding coming from the plains of Oklahoma and Texas? Is this misery going to come here? Because our thoughts are still with all of them after the last couple of weeks. But we show you the radar. It was isolation. One little thunderstorm moves in. It was quite strong. This is a larger image, followed by a secondary one. And it was quite tropical. I was out in it myself and driving in, barely made it in, maybe 5-6 inches of rain, started to pond on some of the areas. I want to go ahead and show you, first of all, if you get in here and you get a little bit closer, how much fell? It was only an inch. Surely you would think the infrastructure of our highway system can handle an inch, but let me show you a tower cam picture and you'll get an idea. This is on top of the CNN Center here, and you can see the clouds that were rolling in. Obviously, the humidity has been very high here in the Georgia area and throughout the South. And as I show you the next image, then, as you notice, this is before and after as the rain starts to move in, you'll get an idea of the flood problems that occurred. Many locations in the area, what's called the Downtown Connector over on Pine Street and North Avenue, show you another image where 85 merge, and obviously you wonder, wow, this is something incredible. Amounts of rainfall, and then surely we can handle this. But then a report comes out, a spokeswoman from the Georgia Department of Transportation says, okay, we had a water main break. How ironic to have a deluge of rain and a water main break at the same time. Now, I can show you this, and the good news is on a broad scale here, the drying will start to take place and has been taking place in Oklahoma and Texas. The energy that we have found there, and maybe a good week of dry weather, will now start to ride the jet stream in toward Dixie and across the Deep South.
Bengalurians were complaining of the sweltering heat in the city these past few days. With the heat wave turning deadly across the country, it was a huge relief seeing rains lash the city. In some places, there were even hailstones. This was quite rare in Bengaluru until a couple of months ago, when a massive hailstorm hit several parts of Bengaluru. But the happiness soon turned into misery yet again as many were stuck in massive traffic jams, and there were also several reports of trees falling. Over 30 trees were uprooted in several parts of Vidyaranyapura, wreaking havoc. Several roads were blocked, while private property, vehicles and houses too were heavily damaged in several parts of the area. Residents are heavily inconvenienced. They called for BBMP officials to clear the damages, but the officials in turn were waiting for cranes and earth movers to begin work. While Bengalurans were complaining of the sweltering heat in the city these past few days, with the heat wave turning deadly across the country, it was a huge relief seeing rains lash the city. In some places, there were even hailstones. This was quite rare in Bengaluru until a couple of months ago when a massive hailstorm hit several parts of Bengaluru. But the happiness soon turned into misery yet again as many were stuck in massive traffic jams, and there were also several reports of trees falling. In fact, over 30 trees were uprooted in several parts of Vidyaranyapura, wreaking havoc. Several roads were blocked, while private property, vehicles and houses too were heavily damaged in several parts of the area. Residents also tried to get in touch with the BBMP officials to clear the damages, but the officials in turn were waiting for cranes and earth movers to begin work.
Andres had maximum sustained winds of 140 kilometers per hour Friday night. The U.S. National Hurricane Center in Miami says some additional strengthening is expected Saturday, but the storm should gradually weaken by Sunday. Andres is centered 1,155 kilometers off the southern tip of Baja California and Mexico and is moving northwest at 11 kilometers per hour. The Pacific hurricane season, which began on May the 15th, lasts through November.
There are a couple of storms in the eastern Pacific, nothing in the Atlantic basin. There's Hurricane Andres and also Tropical Storm Blanca, and we'll begin with Andres. Now a Category 3 hurricane. It's way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean there, or at least the eastern part of the ocean. Very well-defined storm showing up really nicely on the satellite. You can see that well-defined eye there, but it is going to be weakening as it sits out over the open water, and it's not going to have an impact on any landmass. But farther east, there is Blanca, which is getting its act together and is expected to become a hurricane by tomorrow. There's the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. Could very well be a Category 3 by Thursday, and then we'll be approaching Cabo San Lucas. Here's one model impression of that. That could mean some elevated surf and very gusty winds coming into Cabo, and eventually heavy rain in the U.S. Southwest.
Imagine being struck in the head by lightning and living to tell the tale. An Idaho man can.
Ryan Cross was four-wheeling with friends near Idaho City over Memorial Day weekend when a hailstorm hit. He took shelter under a tree, but lightning struck. The jolt left red marks up and down his body. The lightning entered his head and exited his back. You can see it shredded his clothes. Cross suffered bleeding in his brain, but he's now up and walking around. The National Weather Service says the odds of being struck by lightning are about 1 in 960,000, but notes that only about 10% of people who are struck are actually killed. I'm Danielle Banks, The Weather Channel.
You got it, Steve. Now, as you indicated, this wild weather has caused a lot of headaches in a lot of different areas around here in several counties. Falling trees damaged property and even a metro bus. But fortunately, no injuries reported at this hour. Jay Korf now, live with a look at the aftermath of tonight's severe weather. Jay, tell us about it.
Leon, just moments ago, the tree that was on top of the bus right here where I'm standing was removed. All that's left is a destroyed and twisted light pole. It was a night you had to see to believe.
It's just, it's 1 in a million that you see something like that.
Under the steady gaze of James McPherson,
this is nuts.
Chaos erupted Monday night along the downtown Washington, D.C. square, named after the Union General.
Well, I didn't think it was that windy. I don't know what brought it down.
Remember what happened with the tree? Wow. It was bad, wasn't it?
Lucy Trindade watched in disbelief.
And then we heard this big noise.
As pounding rain and driving wind helped topple a massive tree onto a Metro bus.
We saw a lot of things flying, and then when we realized the tree was going down.
Passengers were aboard at the time.
I'm sure they're real scared. They're probably still shaking a little.
But amazingly, there were no injuries.
Thank God nobody was hurt.
Storms rolled through with force. Watch as this U.S. Senate office building camera captures lightning striking near the U.S. Capitol.
It was truly a shock in every level of the word.
A similar close call shocked Kip Lornell in nearby Silver Spring.
Quite literally, and I'm using that word correctly, quite literally jumped out of my seat.
Lightning hit a neighbor's tree. A branch then smashed his fence, and arcing electricity set part of his neighbor's home on fire. It was indeed an evening of surprises in the nation's capital, from hail in Sterling to a sign askew near Rock Creek. What fell from the sky on this day left an indelible mark. And back live, you see what is left of the top of this light pole, not a whole lot. And when this bus was removed, amazingly, the damage wasn't that bad. Live in the district, Jay Korf, ABC 7 News.
It's about flooding for the morning commute here in the Northeast. Heavy rain in the New York City area forced road closures. Some areas have received more than 5 inches of rain in the last couple of days. That was enough standing water for that guy. This is at a park in New Jersey to use a paddleboard to get around. A lake in Newark, New Jersey, flooded, leaving fish struggling to get back to where they belong. One guy even picked up 2 of them, carried them back to where they need to be.
Carried him right by the gills. I'm sure that was comfortable. A truck sunk into the water right there at the dock in Santa Barbara, California. The guy in the truck had been launching the boat, still connected to his trailer. Truck goes underwater. He got out. The truck was pulled out of the water eventually as well. Always see strange things at the boat dock.
问一个，这个害怕保护是保护吧？
对呀，要不都砸碎了，车顶上砸的都坑。
这是出夜市的是吧？就出那个。
Daytime temperatures are hovering between 40 and 45 degrees Celsius in the worst hit Telangana and Andhra Pradesh states after soaring to as high as 48 degrees Celsius earlier in the week. Most of the dead were poor, homeless, or elderly. Hundreds die at the height of summer every year in India. This year's toll is reportedly the second highest in the country's history. Cooling monsoon rains are expected next week in southern India before gradually advancing north.
With the city on high alert, 2 South Korean women were tracked down and sent into quarantine. The 2 women shared the same flight with the South Korean man who has confirmed to have the virus. But earlier, the 2 South Korean women refused to go into quarantine, but finally were tracked down right here in this Elizabeth building of Causeway Bay. They were picked up here and sent into quarantine for 14 days. They are liable to a fine of 5,000 Hong Kong dollars and 6 months imprisonment, according to the Prevention and Control of Disease Regulations of Hong Kong. We've seen staff of the building were cleaning the elevators and get everything disinfected. Some of the residents living in this building told us that they're concerned about the situation and they go out by wearing masks. But most of the people told me that they're not scared at all, as the 2 South Korean women have not confirmed to have the virus.
I have planned to go to Korea in 2 weeks later, and then I cancel.
No, no, not at all. No, police in Hong Kong are great. It's a very safe place, so no problem.
So far, a total of 18 people, including the 2 South Korean women, were quarantined, but none of them showed any symptoms of the disease. But people who lie about their health conditions when entering Hong Kong must face criminal prosecution to help keep the city safe from deadly outbreaks like SARS in 2003. An expert in infectious disease says Hong Kong does have laws against failing to declare a medical condition on arrival, but no one has ever been successfully prosecuted. Meanwhile, the Center for Health Protection says it will continue to liaise with the World Health Organization and South Korean health authorities, and they urge the public not to panic. Judan, CCTV, Hong Kong.
Report shows the issue of driving while black in Missouri may be getting worse. KMBC 9's Michael Mahoney says a statewide report shows African American drivers are being pulled over at a record rate.
The Missouri Attorney General's office has been collecting these statistics for 15 years. In the new report, police stop records show that blacks are 75% more likely than white drivers in Missouri to be pulled over by the police, and that's higher than it's ever been.
There's just a problem that needs to be addressed, and how we address that problem, though, I'm really not sure.
Grant and the Kansas City Urban League have done similar studies and come up with similar results. Black drivers in Kansas City are pulled over more often than white drivers, but the rate here is below the state average. Still, big generalizations are tricky. For example, an outstate town with a very busy highway or interstate could have police stop numbers reflecting how busy that road is, not the racial makeup of the town. In greater Kansas City, the suburbs of Gladstone, independents have a racial disparity rate that's almost double the state average. In Lee Summit, it's almost 50% higher. And Grant says often a black driver does not get an officer's discretion.
And so an officer may make a stop, and then, if it's a black person, they're much more likely to search and to arrest versus when making a stop with whites.
This report is coming from the Attorney General, Chris Koster. He says it does not prove that some police are making stops based on race, but he also says the numbers in this report ought to be used to take a close look at policies and procedures throughout Missouri. Michael Mahoney, KMBC 9 News.
That the FBI is operating what amounts to a small air force with low-flying planes carrying video and surveillance technology. The Associated Press reporting the flights are all for ongoing investigations to capture criminal activity on the ground. The AP also says the surveillance equipment is generally being used without a judge's order, and those flights have been done over 30 cities in some 11 states.
Snow nowhere in water-starved California. The most recent survey puts the snowpack levels in the Sierra Nevada mountains at a shocking 0%, meaning it's gone. It's melted. Here's the latest map showing zeros across the board all along the Sierra. And here's a snowpack map for the same time in 2009 before the current drought began. It shows levels ranging from 7 to 15%. Not great, but better than zero. So basically, California's main source of water for the summer months has already melted away. And with mandatory water restrictions already in place, 2015 is on pace to be the state's hottest year on record. I'm Danielle Banks, the Weather Channel.